you have with developments of the day. This is Biashara Tuesday, round table discussion happening here, literally a round table in the midst of me and Dennis here joining me on this conversation once more. What is happening in the papers this morning? They know what is the state of the Republic?
It is just good morning everyone. My name is Kimani Dennis. Always humble to be in KUTV. I think the Daily Nation is so much on the previous regimes and the current push and pull for the power. Yes.
Yeah. So that is the situation that we are at the moment. The Daily Nation is prioritizing Uhuru's tussle with President William Ruto, and it's an interview, a wide-ranging interview with the former president, who's revealing the power struggle that has been there before, during, and after the swearing in of President William Ruto as the fifth of the Republic. He feels dishonored by this current regime. Despite all this drama, he still considers Ruto as his president. So we have to make that clear. Former President Uhuru Kenyatta considers current President William Ruto as the rightful president, and he says he handed over power regardless of the sentiments that were there on that day. They're saying they know on the day of handing over that there was speculations that there's going to be some very unhappy crowds which will be gathering at Kasarani, that will be hostile at the Kasarani Stadium during the swearing in. But President Uhuru Kenyatta says he believes in the Constitution and the will of the people. So he showed up there to hand over power. But we'll be getting into the details, in a short while. I want to bring to your attention something very peculiar. Do you notice how light these newspapers are? Yeah? Is it an issue of there's not enough stories in the Republic, as Francis Maina is pointing out, or is it that the economy is not favoring print business as of the moment?
I don't want to crucify KUTV, but I think on the same line with Daily Nation, because Daily Nation is one of the newspapers that is really being beat. The government is really against it. It's almost as Korea saying no government should advertise with the Daily Nation, but it's good that you have it on our table, because maybe it's the newspaper that brings what the citizens want to hear.
Okay, let's go through the front of the Daily Nation just real quick, and then we get to this discussion. Top left there, Mukumu girls sacks whistleblower cook for leaking school-related information to the media and disobeying instructions. A story that is there on page 10 of the Daily Nation, and we are very aware of that health crisis or health situation that was there at Mukumu Girls, which led to the death of a couple of students and staff as well. But now the school is sacking the whistleblower cook who leaked this information to the media, saying there was some of considerations which were not made to ensure that the health of these students was taken care of in serving them food. Kenya loses millions in crypto scams, page 12. Feels like deja vu, no? Crypto scams, yeah. Kenyans are losing millions in crypto scams. A story you can get there in page 12. It's up to 40 years in jail for Baby Sagini's attackers, that kid, very young child from Kisii, who had his eyes gouged and also subjected to very serious torture that almost led to his death there. Up to 40 years that you can read in page 8 of the Daily Nation. The top story, Uhuru, my problem with Ruto, a wide-ranging interview of former President Uhuru Kenyatta, who's been in the media since last week. A tussle between him and the current regime, who are accusing him of sponsoring the current anti-government protests, which are led by the Azimio coalition party, of which he is a co-principal. Majority feel the country is on the wrong track. A poll by Infotrack shows where most are believing this country is headed in the wrong direction, with only 15% expressing optimism that it is on the right track. According to the latest survey, Nyanza, Western Coastal Region are exhibiting the lowest confidence in the country's direction, while more than half of the population in Central, Northeastern, and the Rift Valley region believe the country is headed in the right direction. They know we are in the central region of this republic. Do you feel like the country is headed in the right direction? Because it says that half of us who are here in the Rift Valley region and also in the central region feel like we are headed in the right direction. What's your feel now?
I wouldn't say on a political side, but I would say for what it is. Kenyans, what they wanted is to see food on the table. And so all this politics and drama that has been happening, it was uncalled for. So as long as people are hungry, the country is moving in the wrong direction.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
So that is my take. My personal comment is that the country is not moving in the right direction.
Who do you blame? Here they say that 75% of Kenyans are blaming the president for Kenya's poor performance, and then some are pointing fingers towards the executive. There are some who don't even know who to point fingers to, but then there's that small percentage. I had seen it was 9%, but I believe I'll get the correct figure here on page 7 of the Daily Nation. There's a small percentage which is saying that the citizens are responsible. They know. Before we get into the politics of the day, there's something called aiding and abetting. We are very, we're used to saying, our leaders are a cause of the problems that we have. They are a reflection of the society. But when you take a look at the forums that these leaders avail themselves at, the kind of words that they say, you've pointed out CS Moses Kuria there, saying sometimes that we'll get you in a position of say, what the XYZ, some very scathing remarks made by these leaders. But what do you see on the other end, is, citizens cheering on. There are claps, there are people excited at these comments. Even today, if one government official came out in public and, said something about the police and, said they're in a good, they're handling this situation in a good way, you'll find people clapping within the crowd. Are we also to blame for the direction the country is headed?
For me, Richard, what I believe is power belongs to the people. I think Kenyan citizen and the voter is the one to be blamed for everything that is happening in the country. Why? Because they had a choice. One was a sitting deputy president, another was a opposition leader. A sitting president has been given back-to-back power. If anything went wrong in the Uhuru regime, it was to blame for two people.
Okay.
Because William Ruto was not chased out of the government. He was still in the government. So if the fuel was going up, the only thing he could have done is to go in the boardrooms and support Uhuru Kenyatta to bring down the prices of fuel, not to go in on top of V8s and large machines that are full tank, fueled by the government, telling people that fuel is not, it's high. So citizens had the choice to choose between the X and the Y. Now we are in the X's for Twitter, X and the Y. So they chose to believe that William Ruto was sidelined, but government is not a monopoly of ideas. Why? Uhuru Kenyatta brought Matiang'i, but directly, even without going deep into the 5 years elections term, we are seeing William Ruto has already assigned Musalia Mudavadi the works of Matiang'i. So already, like now, this is the first time I'm seeing the deputy president, Rigathi Gachagua, being sent even to a diplomatic mission. You see, so government is not a monopoly of ideas. And what I can think for Uhuru Kenyatta, I'm not supporting him or saying he was good. What I'm saying is that he thought that this government cannot work because of me and William Ruto alone. We have to include others, and we can see it even with the William Ruto government. So the Kenyan voter was the problem, because they chose to forget themselves. They chose not to look for leaders all over. We have a lot of leaders who are not even politicians, they're economists, because economics and politics go hand in hand. You cannot have good economics and good politics. That is when you have good economics and good politics, that is when a country is moving. But if the economics is good and the politics is not willing, we have a country like we are having now, a lot of politicians. And when you go to campaigns, because I was really involved in a lot of campaigns in the last election, Kenyan voter wants that politician mwenye atakutukana, mwenye hajali, mwenye what do we call the ground? Wanasemaga ule mtu ni bazu. Unaget? Ile
wa kuongea ile mambo ambao wengine hawezi sema.
Ule wa kuongea mbaya. You see, we don't want to like put our leaders on the scale. Huyu atafanya nini? You see, like Moses Kuria, we saw him. He was even 2 months into election. We are seeing trade representative from America. They don't want to talk to him. Why? Arrogance. You see, and this is the place where Kenyan citizen and the voter, I'm blaming them. For the next election, 2027, make your mind.
Right.
Yeah.
Deno, I would like to maybe differ with opinion there for a minute, and that is on election cycles, right?
Yeah.
I feel like we do not necessarily need to wait for every election cycle to fix the state of the republic or the state of the nation. There's a place for active citizenship. If you happen to remember back then during Mwai Kibaki's tenure, hate speech was not something that was easily tolerated. Those who are older than me will remember Kamata Fridays,
Yes.
you know, where we were waiting upon who said what and they should be arrested. You know, hate speech had no position in the country. Where did we get, how did we get ourselves in this situation where we're getting very scathing utterances on Twitter, on social media, in person, in rallies, and we are rejoicing? Is this a reflection of us as a people? Or how do we then promote active citizenship where we're putting these leaders into account? Saying that 75% of Kenyans feel or 72% of Kenyans feel the country is headed in the wrong direction does not help us with anything. We'll just say that and move. Is it an issue of we haven't been pushed enough so that we can hold these leaders into account?
What I can think is that it is the system. You see, the Kenya Kwanza government is having majority. It is the executive. It is having majority in the parliament, and it is in some way it has brought the judiciary to its side. So what I'm saying is that independency of these bodies is what will make Kenya move forward. Because if I am an executive, I make a hate speech, I expect the judiciary to be coming for me through the hate speech commission. So where is that losing? Because like the other time we are seeing media people are being abused.
Right.
Don't we have people like who can go and whistleblow or lead this so that every person who bring out hate speech is condemned for what they say.
Right.
But we can see even the president is coming out even saying, if you abuse me, I have the right to abuse you. You see, that was not the right way to move, because you're a president. Please stand to what you know. Don't even if you're supporting this person because at least they have been abused and they want to throw it back. Don't go say it on the media.
What I'm reading there from you is we have an issue between structure and function.
Yes,
we have structures in place for this system that you're mentioning. We have the judiciary, we have the executive, we have the legislature, but the kind of function or even putting the other into account is not happening. We see statements from the judiciary last week, as you've mentioned, there are media being chased away from Milimani law courts, listening in on that Babu Owino hearing. And most of what we get is we condemn with very serious, a very serious tone. We condemn this, we condemn that, but there's nothing that is done to an extent of following up or trying to put these people into account. So that kind of structure and function is missing. If you take a look at last week and the developments the past 3 weeks in police brutality, there's freedom of expression in one side. There's these protesters who have been given opportunity by Article 37 of the Constitution to picket, demonstrate peacefully. But then, the police are also decrying the destruction of property and also, other loss of life through these violent protesters. They know, how do we balance the Constitution at this point? It is offering freedom of speech, freedom of expression, association, assembly, but also protection of lives on this other end. The United Nations has responded to this police brutality, and it's contributing to how we are heading the wrong direction. How do we balance? The Constitution is putting us in a very difficult situation.
I think for me, we have really praised this power, that the person in power is more powerful than the Constitution.
That's why 75% of Kenyans are blaming just the president.
Yes, because we have put that power a lot to the one person that is elected. But for a democratic country, I think the Constitution is the baseline for everyone. Like we are saying, even yesterday we had Musalem David said, there is no one who is above the law. So how comes some people are above the law?
Right.
You see, you don't have to wait for a president to come out of office so that you can prosecute him. What have you been doing all that time? You see. So I think what Kenyans can do is that we're having a constitution that we don't want to follow.
Okay.
And to bring...
Is it an issue of us not reading the constitution or not understanding its application?
What I can say about, and we had this discussion the last time I was here, what is ailing our constitution, it is not that it is bad, it isn't. What is the problem is that we don't know what is enough public participation. You see, the constitution envisaged for a public participation. It says for any project, for anything to happen, you have to have public participation, but it does not say how much is enough public participation.
Okay.
You see, like for NEMA, NEMA is the commission that sets the EIA, the impacts, environmental impacts for any project. So when you're coming up with a project, NEMA will give you a form to fill. If have you done this, and tick, it's going ticking, and then you present the paper to NEMA and see, okay, this project has met all the environmental matters that is supposed requirements. You see, but for public participation, no one will ever tell you this is enough public participation.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. When we're still speaking of public participation, 78% of Kenyans in that InfoTrack survey are saying that the Finance Act should be repealed. Only 22% are up for the Finance Act, moving forward. At the moment, if you're not aware, the Finance Act has been suspended by the High Court pending a deliberation by the Supreme Court. We'll be following up on that, which is also part of those problems as we head to the next story here on the Daily Nation. Uhuru, my problem with Ruto. This is stemming from way before when they were trying to transition to this current regime when Uhuru was president and William Ruto was deputy president. Is this personal? They know, before we get into the details, is this personal or is it political?
This is very, very much personal, and it is a fight for the age mates.
Okay.
This is nothing to do with Kenya. These people now are trying to show us that we are fighting for superiority. We don't want to think about the common mwananchi because we are hungry. Why are we fighting for Uhuru Kenyatta? If the coffers were empty, you could have whistleblowed at that time. You cannot tell us 16 million is nowhere to be seen 1 year after the person has gone. You're not really helping Kenyans. You're in that office, whistleblow and tell us when that thing is happening. So this thing that they are showing us, it's not a war for the citizens, it's their own war.
Right. As we take a step back as citizens, this is what is happening between Uhuru Kenyatta and President William Ruto. Last week, there were a few unnamed individuals at his son's residence, his former home in Karen, who are saying that, there's possession of illegal firearms, which are amounting to 23 of them. President Uhuru Kenyatta has come out to say they have legally acquired 6 firearms between these two sons, and his daughter, Ngida Kenyatta, does not have any of these firearms. There are also a myriad of issues that he is concerned about and that he addressed. One, that is not funding Azimio La Umoja Coalition's anti-government protest. Does it matter, if he's funding the anti-government protests or not?
In a balanced democracy, we have the ruling party and the opposition party. So, and I think in the constitution, everyone has the right to be affiliated to any political party. But you see, the people at the power now, they feel that Uhuru Kenyatta is an enemy to their government. Why? Because they feel like they were sidelined or thrown away from the party in the previous regime. So I think there's a little bit of revenge that we are seeing here, and that's why we can see what they were like. I was reading somewhere the same thing that happened to Wanjigi, going to Chaka Ranch in Westlands, Parklands, looking for firearms. Is the same thing that is happening to Uhuru Kenyatta now, because power has changed. There's things like those. But what I can say is that a lot of truth will come out, and Kenya should be very much concerned about these things that are happening now, because the truth is coming out now. Because when Uhuru is speaking, we are getting some point of the truth. Like now, you can read at the bottom of the new Daily Nation.
Right, 2017.
2017. After the general election, Dr. Ruto wanted us to go after Mr. Odinga and his opposition, click, ruthlessly, but I refused, says the former president. You see, we are seeing there were people who wanted to go and minimize the opposition at that time. But you see, now that was the time Uhuru Kenyatta was the president. When you are the president, you are the leader of your house. So even if I bring you something, Richard, like you are the host of this show. I bring you, I tell you this camera is not okay, this, or these gazettes, you could have brought another
newspaper.
The newspaper. You see, I'm trying to come and control your house.
Okay.
You see,
yeah.
This is what William Ruto has done. But what I can think for is that the previous government was more important to Uhuru Kenyatta than it was to William Ruto.
Okay.
Because he would stand again. But William Ruto, this government is more important to him than Uhuru Kenyatta.
Right.
Because he's the king.
Okay.
You see?
All right.
So it was a must to sell logic and to buy what you think was right.
Right.
Yes.
I have two more things to take a look at before we move away from these stories, and it's on empty coffers at the Treasury. We are aware that the Kenya Kwanza government came in, and their first issue was they found the coffers empty. Wallet, haina pesa, hakuna kitu, dilapidated economy. It will take us time to, make a turnaround. And President Uhuru Kenyatta did respond to that, saying that government revenue comes in and goes out immediately. There is no store for money at the exchequer. Kenya does not have a sovereign fund. We, like many countries around the world, operate hand to mouth. Just like its citizens, the country is operating hand to mouth. And this is coming from a former president who's been in tenure for 10 years total, that is provided by the constitution. And as well, during his tenure, he did mention that we are losing 2 billion Kenyan shillings on a daily basis. When such statements are coming out of someone who's been in power, who's been at the helm of leadership, saying, one, there's 2 billion bob, which is being lost every single day. And also, secondly, we are living hand to mouth. In what world will I listen to the government and its economic policies, and how do I make sense of such statements, Dino?
Richard, thank you for that. I want to connect this with this one.
The Business Daily.
Business Daily.
Right.
We still have a same case on that, on the exchequers. Kidero Sonko regimes hid shillings 18 billion own source tax revenue reveals, you see. So the same thing that is happening at the national government is happening at the county government. I don't know if it is the system that is rotten, or there are some people who are superior to the others, or there's a mixed match, because money is just disappearing from nowhere. What I can say is that I think there's a lot of bureaucracy, or a lot of people handling this money, because I am sure in this studio we are like 5 people. If I give you 1,000 shillings, that is changed. It is not in Ajashikana. If I give you 1,000 shillings, you're supposed to pass it till to the end. Are you sure it will reach there as 1,000 shillings? And I mean, nimekupelea tao. When you reach to KU, give this person. When you reach to this person, give it. Are you sure it will reach 1,000 shillings? So for my thinking is that I think there's in between the president and the mwananchi, between here, there's a lot of people, and some money disappears from that side.
Right.
Yes.
Responsibility and accountability. Now, let's speak about that. Who do we hold accountable? Azimio la Umoja is calling off protest from tomorrow. They have not been given priority on the Business Daily, the Daily Nation. I don't know if you have the standard out there. You can tell us if there's priority on that. But it's been cancelled, yeah? So
yes.
We had a sense that this was about Mwananchi. So if it is about Mwananchi, we should see independently organized protests in the streets. But between me and you and every citizen who is watching us, we know that's not true. Whether there are demonstrations which are called today, whether there's server needs to be opened, whether the high cost of living is the priority of these demos which are being called by the opposition, we know that they know what exactly is ailing the republic.
Yes.
They know why the price of unga is up. They know why the price of fuel up. We don't need to be out in the streets on a daily to ensure that they are aware of our problems. These are people who are accountable, people who are budgeting for us. So they are aware of this kind of situation. Who do we hold responsible and accountable when the former president says 2 billion is being lost every single day, but nothing happens? When police brutality is meted on innocent protesters, but nothing happens. Who do we must get to a point where we demand what is right for us, and how do we do that?
I think for accountability, the responsibility is for maybe the president to bring something, to bring their finance bill to parliament, but for the accountability, I think we have to hold the parliament accountable, because we all know everything will pass through parliament. Now we are seeing in pictures, they are laughing at Raila Odinga. What next for Raila Odinga? He has lost in parliament, he has lost in election, he has lost in the judiciary. What next for him? So I think for myself, I want to hold the parliamentarians a little bit accountable for
a lot more. I will say a lot more.
Yes, for the high food prices, because these food prices are set in parliament. They all know what is happening in the food prices. So we elected people who are not really citizen based. These were people, and that's the problem we started with. The voter. The voter wants to bring in the richest person as the MP in that area. Hey, ule jamaa amekuwa na pesa siku hizi, and they leave out the best. I was there in the nomination, the party nominations. There was that thing that they were calling consensus. Consensus was like, huyu jamaa has a lot of money. This person alikuwa a previous MP who has already failed. So I think the voter from now, let us take people to parliament, not because of their richness, not because of they were previous MCAs they have done, but through the manifesto or what they have done for the local, for the local people. Because you don't rise to be a leader from nowhere. You see, you must have done something. Maybe you started as a head boy in your primary school. You raised kwa nini nyumba kumi, you are somewhere there around nyumba kumi, you are a captain of a team, and you escalate to the biggest. But Kenyans, we want to say, hey, this guy has a lot of money, he can be an MP. And that is the problem, because there's one time I had William Kabogo say, during the campaign, he gave people a lot of money. But when he came to work, what did he tell the people? Unanitisha barabara na nilikupe barabara. So what do you expect these people to get this money to give you during campaigns, and then when they are seated, you still want a road? Richard,
right.
It is
not practical. It is not logical. It is not practical.
Yes.
So we need to hold ourselves into account. And I'll get back to one more question that I have on the role of active citizenship just a bit later. But that is what you can read. This interview, wide-ranging interview with editors, has been published here in the Daily Nation between former President Uhuru Kenyatta and the media. Full story, page 2, 3, 4, and 5. Let's turn our heads a bit into a different story, which is there in page 10, as we then reflect back to the state of the nation and close up this newspaper discussion. It's happening from a nation's investigative story over at Mukumu Girls. Mukumu Girls High School. This is a cook who spoke to the media about the poor state of the school's kitchen, which led to that kind of health crisis that we witnessed with the death of 3 students and 1 teacher at the school in April. So this man, who is Mr. Douglas Muchela, said that he had warned the headmaster on the several occasions about the poor state of the kitchen, the illness which also led to the hospitalization of more than 100 students, which was linked to water and food consumed by the students. He lost his job, by the way. Douglas Muchela is received here. He says he's been fired for leaking this information to the media. He has already received 2 letters from the principal of that school, who is now informing him of the reasons for his dismissal. This is happening on a school level. And I feel like it relates somehow to what is happening on a national level. You put someone into account, someone loses a job, or someone goes disappearing, or someone gets arrested, or protesters go missing, or some kind of activity happens in the deepest hours of the night. What do you make of this situation in our high schools?
I think there's a whistleblower commission that seeks to safeguard and protect the whistleblowers. They should come out for this case, because this person really helped a lot of. For instance, in our high school, we were 1,300 students. You see. And if 1,300 students will be affected because of one person, it's not good. So this guy is a hero. He's a hero for for some time, and he should be given protection because of what he.
But you don't seem to appreciate them. And even if you look back to Masai Mara University, I don't know if you remember that, there was a whistleblower situation there, an investigative piece done by the Citizen, and they eventually fired this guy.
I think that's why I'm saying our system is spoiled, rotten in a way, because the judiciary should, this whistleblower commission is in the judiciary, so they should really protect. Are they just taking our monies because there's a budget for the committee?
Right.
So I think they should do work for Kenya.
Against that, again that issue of structure and function.
Yes.
Yeah. So we do have structures at the moment. I think the function is where we are lacking. Let's wrap up, Deno. Maybe if you have one story there, but I have one more just to highlight quickly on the Business Daily before you can give me yours. 375 billion revenue shortfall deepens Kenya's cash crisis. The state nets 3.2 trillion in total revenues in the year that ended June 30, 2023. Ordinary tax revenue was below target by 101 billion. I know if you have this situation in the next financial year, the government will point fingers towards the Finance Act, which has not been implemented, and they'll say, we were not able to correct the required revenue, and they will find some loophole in how this money will be lost, such as Kidero Sonko regimes, which have hid 18 billion on their own source tax revenues. So 18 billion lost against 375 billion which wasn't collected. So if you subtract here and you get a few more individuals, I think we'll get this revenue up, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so let's address structure, governance, and function. Anything that you have there over, Deno?
I want to finish up with the county news, because we have 47 counties. And to connect with that, the Nairobi county, yesterday Governor Sakaja appeared with the county executive, yes? And we are hearing that NMS, in their exchequers, NMS had already, it is disbanded, but they have a loan of 16.1 billion, and Sakaja is not willing to pay it and has pushed it to the office of the president. You see, I think a lot of things in the Nairobi county, it is a confused thing, because the national government is on this side, the county government is on this side, NMS is at the center. And the same thing I want to say is that the county government should be, there's an act for the county government. Why are we confusing ourselves and still going to the executive for some help? To finish up with that, I wanted to, in the recent past, we have seen a lot of Al-Shabaab fightings. In page 18 of the county news, we are saying, involve local communities in war against Al-Shabaab, leaders says Wajir governor. I want to remember, there's someone who told me one day how Michuki managed to finish up the Mungiki. He did not use force. If you use force, you'll never finish a community. What you have to do is to engage the local communities. So you go talk to them. What is the problem that is making you fight each other? Like today, the CS for interior is around Keyo and Samburuko. So if he goes there with a big machines trying to fight them, he will never win the war. But if he sits down the community members, he might find important information that they have, because most of these people, they don't just fight. They don't just go steal cattle. There's a reason that is making them to go and raid other families and communities. So my call is that let the government use the local,
involve citizens a bit more.
Yes, so that they can get the real issues.
Thank you very much, Deno, for that final remark. And if you had missed any of these stories, get yourself a copy. The Business Daily, the Daily Nation, all these are still retailing at 60 shillings, even if there's not much weight in them. I guess there's not many stories coming out of our world with this high cost of living. But Deno, now let's close it up with the quote at the end of the Business Daily from you, and then I can wrap it up.
Last word.
Okay.
Can I say something before we finish?
Sure.
I just want to remind everyone that we're in a climate crisis. We are 5 years to global temperature of 1.5. It is no longer a government, a world, or anyone's intervention. It is my intervention. Do the small thing that you can do.
Okay. Just say that last statement. Do the best thing that you can do in this camera.
Please do the last thing, the smallest thing you can do. Wangari Maathai said, my little thing. Do the little thing you can do. It's not about the government, it's about what you can do.
All right, let's get that last word there.
Where there is no hope, it is incumbent on us to invent in it.
Let's get it again.
Where there is no hope, it is incumbent on us to invent in it.
Right. Thank you very much, Deno, for joining me here on the show this morning.
It's always my pleasure.
All right.
Yeah.
Where there's no hope, it is incumbent of us to invent it. Difficult times create strong people. We need to get to a point where we must demand for what is right for us. All these politicians keep bickering and pumping anger into the masses. The wheel goes round and round, and I think we are at the center of all the repercussions that will come out of the political showmanship that we are witnessing in the Republic. We are actually financing people's lifestyles. We are financing people's businesses. We're financing people's children to go school abroad. We're financing people's healthcare while we enjoy none of it. So think about it. We must see, accept, and understand the situation that we are in as a republic so that we can get to move forward. My name is Richard OKENYE. Thank you very much for joining us here on this show, Biashara Tuesday, coming to you from KUTV Rise today. Meet me again next week on the show when we get to discuss business, politics, youth, and governance. If you didn't learn anything today,